So if we look at the prior paragraph, the one just before this one, it says, Baruch Shomer Havtachato Yisrael. Blessed is he who has kept his promise to Israel. And this passage refers to the promise that God made to Abraham when he told him that his descendants would be slaves in a foreign land, but that he, God, would bring them out of there and he would judge that nation. And so it is that promise that is being referred to when we say Vehi, and it is it. And it is that promise that has stood for us over all the generations and over all the centuries. When people have arisen to annihilate us, it is God's promise to Abraham that has stood for us. But, you know, the drasha that I heard, which I like very much, interprets this a little bit differently, and it is based on the idea that, as we know, each of the Hebrew letters stands for a number. So we have here a four-letter word, Vehi. The first letter is a Vav. Vav is 6. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. So what is 6? 6 are the 6 orders of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is divided into 6 major sections, and each one of those sections is called a Seder. By the way, that's the same word as the Seder, the meal that we're having on Passover, because Seder, as we know, means order. It's the fact that things are arranged in a certain way, and the same thing is true for the Mishnah. So we call each one of the 6 sections an order, and so the 6 here stands for the 6 orders of the Mishnah. And of course, the Talmud has the same 6 divisions. So that really the 6 stands for the oral Torah. The Hey, the next letter, 5, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. 5, of course, is the 5 books of Moses. The Yud, which is 10, stands for the 10 statements, the Decalogue. As I've said many times in various drashas, we should avoid the term 10 commandments, because that really does not come out of the Jewish tradition. Because as we know, in Judaism, we talk about the 613 commandments. And we don't call these the 10 commandments, but rather they are the 10 statements that God made while the Jewish people were standing at Mount Sinai. So the 10 is the Decalogue. And then finally, the Aleph is 1, which stands for God, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? Shema Yisrael, Ad Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is one. But the drasha here goes like this. We actually work backwards. So we start with the 1 and say, well, what is it that has preserved Judaism and the Jewish people over all the centuries and through all of the tribulations that we have experienced? Obviously, first and foremost, it is God. God has stood for us over all these centuries. It is God who has protected us. But the fact is, of course, that a belief in God, even a belief in one God, is not unique to Judaism. As we know, the 3 so-called Abrahamic religions, the 3 monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all believe in one God, and ultimately that God is the God of Israel, the same God. The Yud, the Decalogue, the 10 statements, again, are fundamental ideas, we could say, fundamental moral and ethical ideas that are shared by a large chunk of humanity. And of course, Christianity holds these 10 commandments, to use now the appropriate term here, the 10 commandments, as being the central part of the revelation to Moses at Mount Sinai. So again, this is not unique to Judaism. The the 5 books of Moses, again, the same thing. The Christianity certainly believes that the 5 books of Moses are part of the Bible. If you pick up any Christian Bible, you're going to see that there's a section of it called the Old Testament. The Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible contains the 5 books of Moses. So again, that's not unique to Judaism. We share that. Obviously, the Christians got this the Old Testament from us. It is the Hebrew Bible, but nonetheless, it is not that which has made Judaism unique over the centuries. But what has preserved us and what has kept Judaism as a unique religious culture is the 6, the Mishnah, the oral Torah. Because most of what we do in Judaism, is derived from the oral Torah. So whether we look at things that we're all familiar with, lighting Shabbos candles, bar and bat mitzvah, having a chuppah at a wedding, or having 4 cups of wine at a seder, all of those are things that we learn from the oral Torah. The fact of the matter is, you could read the 5 books of Moses from beginning to end, backwards and forwards, as many times as you like. You're not going to find any reference in there to bar or bat mitzvah. You're not going to find any reference in there to a chuppah. And although the verses upon which the drinking of 4 cups of wine at the Seder, those 4 verses are certainly in the Torah, but you would have no way of knowing that you're supposed to drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder because of the 4 times, the 4 different words that are used for redemption in those 4 verses in the Torah. The only reason we know that you drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder is because the Mishnah says so. So the fact is, it is the oral Torah that really has made Judaism the unique religious culture that it is, and has preserved us, I think, as a distinct and unique people throughout the centuries. So I'm going to stop at this point. The plan would be that next week we'll also post a video of the drasha, and I'm going to continue with some other sections, some other aspects of the Haggadah that we'll deal with so that we can be prepared for Passover. So I want to again tell everyone, please stay safe. Please stay safe. It's the most important thing right now. And also, I want to just wish everyone a good Shabbos.